you're running 4 or 5 days a week and still not seeing the results that you want, strength training isn't what's holding you back. It's probably the thing that you're missing. We've got Claire today on the pod to share her experiences with helping a bunch of runners and endurance athletes improve their times, stay injury-free, and really get back to falling in love with their running from all of her experiences. So Claire, welcome back to the show.
Thank you.
Let's get straight into it. I don't want to dance around this one too much. So you've been around this for a long, long time, much, much longer than Nath or I. What is it that you see when people start strength training alongside their running that's the big key differences there?
I think one of the key differences, if I think of multiple examples of clients of mine who've started out running first and then added on the strength training, is not just running economy, so like how much energy you're using while you run or reducing how much energy you use, but how quickly you recover from those events as well as training sessions. I think that was one of the unexpected ones when I became a strength and running coach. Side by side was how quickly people are recovering from their long run and able to adapt and push on. Running is a very monotonous, repetitive sport, so we do still see niggles, but again, how quickly people can come back from those niggles, or even more major injuries as well. So it's really got that performance and injury prevention and injury management piece to it.
All right, let's dive into that like injury management and injury prevention side first. And I think one of the things that people do miss about running is there's actually quite a significant amount of force that gets loaded through your body in running. And they think that like, I don't need to be that strong to run or so on, or like that weights are going to be hard. Often the loads that you put through your body in strength training, particularly if you haven't done it, are probably going to be less than what your body's facing just on your everyday run, particularly those interval days where you are pushing into those higher paces, right?
Yeah, most likely. And the best thing about putting your tissues under and increasing your load capacity in the gym is that it's under a very controlled and progressive nature, as opposed to out on the track, out on the trails, out on the road, where you've got so many other factors that can disturb your running and increase your risk of injury. We are getting that tissue capacity up, maybe single leg, maybe double, and in control and in a progressive nature.
And what are the key areas? Like, what are those injuries that seem to face runners the most often, and particularly ones that aren't strength training? Where do we see that pop up most?
Oh, that's loaded. I think some of the most common overuse, like it's mainly overuse. It's unlikely someone's going to blow an ACL just out on their Saturday long run, social run. But the overuse injuries that we see, a lot of hamstring tendinopathy, so that proximal right underneath the butt cheek, a lot of plantar fasciitis, some Achilles. I call it just a cranky Achilles.
Got that at the moment.
Yeah, cranky knees. So there's an injury called runner's knee, which is ITB syndrome, which is similar to what Nath was getting before during his marathon training, or just patellofemoral pain. I feel like patellofemoral pain is a nice umbrella term for cranky knee, and that generally comes in quad dominant runners as well.
And so where should somebody start in this sort of piece with the training for runners?
In terms of strength training for runners, it depends on their running history, to be honest. A beginner runner who maybe has a good strength background might just be getting more specific in their strength training. Whereas if you've got a really robust runner who's running with a very high VO2 max, who's running, more than 12 kilometres an hour, they tend to respond really well from higher intensity strength training. So you're kind of 80% of your 1RM type training. Whereas those newer runners who are running a bit slower, they get really good results from plyometric training. But obviously with plyometric or power jumping training, you need to have a good strength base as well. So it really depends where they're coming in.
Right, let's. You're on there, and I really want to grab on. What's that strength base look like? Like, what should somebody be able to do to then comfortably go, okay, cool, I can step into those plyometrics, or like just knowing that you've got enough strength to facilitate the running work that you are doing? Like where do you start? I know you made me do some of these, and it was quite embarrassing of some of the things like I got like a 250 plus kilo deadlift and some of these little funky things that were going on. I was pretty bad at them, let's be honest here.
Yeah. So I created this strength endurance assessment. I don't know. I've been coaching for 14, 15 years. So at some point between 15 years ago and now. But I've been using it for, a long time. And it's a really isolated endurance strength assessment where I'm having a look at, and I say a single leg hamstring bridge, are lying hip abduction against the wall, and I'm really trying to isolate hamstrings, glute medius, calves, and have a look at, I've got minimum standards that I want most endurance runners to be at.
Are we allowed to share some of them today, or is that proprietary?
Yeah, it's not copyrighted. So, for example, our single leg hamstring bridge, I would like 25 plus. Calf raises, 30 plus. And this is not an eccentric calf raise. This is just with your heel just off a platform or just off a step. And we're controlling tempo as well. So on the calf raise, for example, a second up, a second down. On the hamstring bridge, 2 to 3 seconds up, 2 to 3 seconds down. Side-lying hip abduction against the wall really isolates the glute med. On this one, 25 to 30 plus per side, but the caveat to that is actually feeling it in the glute med. Our body's very good at compensating. So if you're feeling that traveling down the leg or the heel starts coming off the wall, that shows me that your quad's taking over or something else is taking over or into the back. Single leg Bulgarian split squat, everyone's favorite, back foot elevated. We're looking at 20 per side. Do you want all of these?
Oh, like it gives us a good gist. Like I think what you've covered so far, and we do have to keep a little bit of proprietariness to it.
Come and see me if you want to find out.
Assessment there. But what I do want to jump in on a little bit, like, what would you say to somebody who say they're already running half marathons, they're getting through it, they're getting through quite a significant training load already, but then they can't do those things. How are they getting away with it? What's the missing pieces there, and then what implications does that maybe have down the long run?
Our body is super clever. Running, if you simplify it, is left foot, right foot, repeat. If you ask it to recruit muscles, it will to allow you to do that. What will break down eventually is if you are recruiting muscles that are designed, say, for postural muscles, which are designed not to carry a lot of load, or if you're asking muscles down the chain. So when I mean down the chain, I'm talking about lower limb instead of the hips and the core and the trunk and the glutes, which are really your powerhouse in running. If you don't have them really strong, powerful, with good endurance, your calves might start doing more work. And you do need good calf capacity to push back. But if your calves do all the work all the time, it's going to start pulling up on that plantar fascia. So yes, you will probably get away with it for a period of time, but that's where those overuse injuries start to play out. And also, running's really damn hard when you're not strong. I've just been through my own journey recently of really trying to trudge back into running after having kids, and it's not until I really upped my strength that I found it easier. I found my VO2 max is increasing a lot faster than when I was much weaker and starting to enjoy running more. And I would say to those who are not doing strength training and haven't done it before, you just don't even know what you don't know. And it's not until I get people in, I see this all the time, people come in and just don't realise how much of an effect having better strength is going to affect their running.
And that probably dives straight into our next segment. And I do want to give a shout out to Nath. He doesn't know that we're going to mention this little story along here, but Nath actually used to work with a girl named Celia Sullivan, and she was already a really, really strong runner, really impressive runner. I think she'd gone competed nationally and stuff like that. Her goal was to make the Com Games team. And this is probably about 2016. It was pre-Newstrength time. She walked into the gym and got paired up with Nathan. He just went through some fundamental strength stuff. It wasn't anything running specific. It probably wasn't a clear program. But this girl, Celia, she was just next level. She could just put in the work. It was point and shoot. If you told her this is what you're doing, she gave 110% on everything. And she actually, within a couple of months, probably 2 months of training, she then started PBing her 5Ks at 10K times, all these things. Her running coach was like, hey, what are you actually doing here? Because I didn't see, you haven't progressed this quickly in a long time now. And it wasn't even she didn't go to a running coach being like, I think I should start strength training. She sorted out herself as a gap that she had there. And long story short, she went on to place, I think, 5th and 6th in the Com Games in 2018 on the Gold Coast.
Amazing, yeah.
After that point, I could think she moved away from Newcastle, so her and Nathan weren't working together in that time or the whole time, but she kept on strength training as a cornerstone just twice a week as part of her training program when she was already doing some ridiculous amount of running volume, but she found a way to squeeze it in, and it made somebody who was faster. She ran
chasing that extra 1%.
Yeah. It was it's chasing those little differences, and essentially, I don't know, I'm not exactly sure. I didn't see her running program through and through of it. Whether it was that she was able to handle more total volume in her running, which we do see a lot, whether it was just her actual neurological capacity to produce force was better. She could produce more force in a short ground contact time and all these little things. And we will probably dive into the running economy, like you said before. But all of these things come along off the back end of the fact that she just found that one extra piece. And yet maybe for some people that might be trading out 1 run a week or trading out 2 runs a week from your training volume. But when you're already running 4 or 5 days a week, is like a 6th one actually helping you run faster? Maybe, maybe not. Probably depends on who you are. Me, probably yes, because I'm terrible at running and I don't do enough of it. Like going from 1 to 2 to like 3 to 4 probably makes a huge difference. But if you're already at that 5 to 6 there and you're not doing strength training, I'd really put a big promotion on like trying to squeeze that in somewhere, even if they are short and condensed 15-minute blocks through the week.
Yeah, I've met a lot of runners who are really resistant to strength training, not because they don't understand the benefit. I think there's enough media out there about the benefit of strength training. They don't understand the application of that strength training or what to do once they get to the gym. So it's either that they can't buy into the program and the programming doesn't make sense to them, or, they don't want to forfeit that run. And I even created this group once called, what did I call it? Strength. Because I knew that if I got my runners there to do a hybrid run strength session, that was the only strength dose that they were going to get. So I had to somehow get it in there with some running just to get the buy-in. And once I got that buy-in, I was able to convert them over to a strength group.
Have you ever heard, like, and this is very sidetracked, but I do love a good old school strength story. Litvinov's?
No.
I'm probably butchering the name of the guy. He was I don't know exactly. I think he was like through shot put or something like that, like Russian guy, but was known for he did, what was it, like sets of like 8. I think the story is front squats at 180 kilos. It was 8 front squats at 180 kilos, followed by like a 400-meter sprint, X amount of rest, and then go again.
Is that a lactate session?
Oh, there's some like wild, like, I believe somebody's actually even gone back and asked the dude and he's like, we never did that. Like it was just some like backstory of a thing that was like,
everyone else has picked up on.
I think, well, apparently they reckon that he did that as like just one of a training session in like, where everyone gets to Worlds and so on, and then everyone's just sharing the track.
And
then it was like he did something thereabouts, and then it just got extrapolated into this story of like, this is how he was doing it, and he won, like he dominated in that World Champs or whatever it was, and then the story just got a little bit of GST added to it each time until it was like, I think it was like 3 sets of 8 at 180 kilo front squat, which is crazy, and I think it was like the story was it was like a sub 60 seconds 400 as a guy that was like probably 120 odd kilos, 130 kilos. So that's what I'm picturing that your runners were doing essentially.
No, I wasn't making them do 180 kilo front squats, but certainly getting the plyometrics in there.
Yeah, what did it look like? Was it at the track? Was it at the gym and you made them run out and back? Or how did you sneak that in?
It was at the track. So it was doing... we'd have like our strength first, because if you're going to do a contrast session where you're doing strength and running in the same one, but you want to put the one that you're trying to preference first. So we wanted to get the strength dose in first, and then we rewarded them with a running interval session afterwards. So it was lactate heavy. So it was, a lactate threshold type session, so we could cut that out of their running training program as well.
Let's talk about that running economy that we started touching on at the start there. What does that look like, and why is improving your strength actually help that?
So running economy is, or improving your running economy might be improving your technique, so your efficiency, your ability to keep the core engaged, which is a really big energy transfer between the upper and lower body. It's your ability to get more force production for every single step that you do. One of the worst things, I always, for some reason, use the City to Surf as an example, because I think the City to Surf in Sydney is every runner of every stage comes down and does the City to Surf. But you see the strong runners finishing, and it's a brutal race, it's a brutal event. And you see the strong runners finishing up really tall with their core on and their hips up and kind of striding through the finish, through to those back of the packers who are all crouched over, kind of shuffling through. So it's a rate of force production or force development. So you're able to use less energy to push yourself forwards. Another little analogy I use is running is like skateboarding or scootering. You land and you push backwards to be able to go forwards. When you see someone with poor force development or rate of force development, they tend to pull themselves. So they'll land out in front and they'll pull their body forward before they get any push, which is using a lot of wasted energy. It's not adding to your propulsion. By strength training, you're strengthening the hips, the glutes, the hamstrings, which is able to propel you forward.
So we're seeing like when somebody has that right, and obviously like if you're pulling your foot out in front there, is that there's more power in that push back then they're not having to spend as much time. They're not having to reach their way out.
Absolutely. So it's a waste of time. Overstriding, you'll see overstriding talked about as an injury mechanism, which it is because you're really putting on the braking force by landing out in front of you. But when we talk about it in running economy, you have to pull your center of gravity over your center of mass before you can propel yourself forward. So if you're landing out in front, you're doing a lot of pull before you're even producing any force to push backwards to take you forward. That's why I like the skateboard analogy because most people can understand that kind of land and push gait of a skateboarder.
Yeah, and you probably haven't made this correlation before. It's actually very similar to carrying a yoke.
Absolutely have not made that correlation before.
Yeah, I don't think you've chucked one of them on there. But essentially when we talk strongman and we talk carrying a yoke, and Jess is over the back here and she's been learning for her comp with Sally coming up in the next couple of weeks, and like we talk about this concept, like everyone tries to stride out with the yoke and tries to pull themselves forward, but obviously then when you've got like 300 plus kilos on your back, the longer you stride forward, the more time you're in single leg support, the more the yoke's going to laterally move, and that's going to really challenge that stability through the hip. It's going to challenge the stability through your midline. You're not going to be able to keep that strong upright posture because you're going to break down there. Like who has the strength through their glute medius to stabilize on a long stride length, a whole 300 plus kilos of the yoke tipping them over on that? Like basically nobody.
Yeah, but
versus what you see just actually starts to happen when you are good at it is it's all pushing out the back and it's little steps to get up, and people start to stride out when they're getting some speed going, and it looks like they're striding out like they're reaching forwards. That's why everyone thinks about, you have to get that foot out in front of you to get started. But in reality, what's actually happening is that then they're pushing back, but the momentum they've created, and it's about getting momentum. It's like getting out of the blocks when you're actually sprinting. Not that I can get out of the blocks fast sprinting, by the way. Anyone that's listening at home, I take my acceleration as like a 18-wheeler truck. I take a bit of time to get going, but when there's 300 kilos on my back, I can do it reasonably well. But what you see that starts to happen is once that momentum starts to carry, like their strides do get longer. Their feet still move just as quickly, but it's still landing just underneath their actual center of mass and pushing forward. So it's always pushing forward. They're not pulling. Yep. And I do know like the heaviest yoke that I ever did, 385 as an under 90s, which was at the time was an Australian record, but that was the first time that I was out of my rhythm. Like I was not able to actually keep position. And that was the first time in a long time since early when I first started where I wasn't able to keep a really strong core posture and a strong midline. And a big part of that was the amount of time that I was single leg support and trying to rebalance and reassess, and I couldn't keep a really strong position anymore. So it's funnily enough, carrying a yoke and running is awfully similar in that way. You
just actually made some sort of connection there that was never there before. But it's similar. It made me think it's similar when you ask someone to sprint, they actually really tighten up their mechanics. They stand tall, they pull their core on, the knees come up, they're pushing back, their feet are going so fast, they don't have the time to bring their leg forward to overstride. And so on our Tuesday morning interval session, if it's a sprint-based one, I see beautiful running mechanics. And then you ask someone to slow down and it all falls apart. And that's, I think, a really big strength piece in the ability to hold that position and hold that form. Like I wonder if on your yoke, you said you had the momentum from the heavier weight, if when you have the heavier the weight goes, the better your posture becomes because you're having to lift up and really brace yourself.
I think there's definitely like a nurture like sort of process, like what got you into that point in the first place, because a lot of guys they transition over to strongman from a base of like powerlifting or like bodybuilding or stuff where it's like everything is very standing, like it's locked in, your feet are through the floor, like very static strengthy. I think the guys that come through from a team sports setting where they've done running, change of direction, all of those sort of stuff, they typically perform way, way better when it does come to things like your yoke, your farmers, your sandbag shuttles and those sort of things, because I think they have that ability, like where it is similar in that sort of sense to the running, like they've been able to apply force to the ground that way versus a lot of the guys as it gets heavier when their base was powerlifting and strength sports, they want to glue their feet into the ground more. Like that's where they feel comfortable under heavy load versus the team sports guys and girls as well. They want to get moving. They want to be pulsy, snappy action when it gets to that point there, and like it frees them up in that way. So I think definitely there is a layer on both sides there. But we won't get too much into strongman world because
I need to talk strongman.
Yeah. So if somebody's trying to like dial in that running economy, like what's the key things in strength training besides just doing it? Is there certain things that they're looking for out of that, or is there certain pieces of strength training? Is it plyometrics are more valuable when that's the case, or does it depend on the person?
Depends on the person and on the goal. And like it's training someone who is training for an ultra endurance event. I've just trained someone. Shout out to Tony who just did his an Ironman over in the US over the weekend. That training program is very different to someone who is doing their first 5K or first 10K. Just from the point of view that their output needs to be different. Tony needs to be able to maintain posture, muscle recruitment, force production for 14 hours plus. So it does depend, but the basis of it is having a good base strength, so bilateral strength, even between sides, good single leg stability and single leg strength, but I wouldn't say that's the be all and end all. Once you've got that, then you can apply some higher intensity strength training up to your 80% of your 1RM, 6 to 8 reps, and your plyometrics.
And where do people get it wrong? Like, what do you see or what do you hear about from, say, a runner that has been doing some strength training in the past, but might not have actually been approaching in a way that's conducive to improving their running performance? I don't know, say somebody like me when you were helping me run for the marathon.
Yeah. If their program is not specific enough or not targeted for a runner, and you're not getting the force production, or you're not targeting hips, or you're not targeting full range of motion that you would see a runner need to go through, or if their strength training is too hard and they're trying to back up for their next quality session, but they're not recovered either from their strength. And this will change in the phases. So running, I think we spoke in our last podcast about the different phases of training, like a base versus a build versus a peak versus a taper. So your strength training will change if you are running events. If you're just running for general fitness and longevity, then it probably doesn't matter as much. But if you're trying to increase your endurance, increase your speed, increase or decrease the amount of time it takes you to recover, then the strength training needs to be kind of on point to allow for that.
Awesome. So let's get towards wrapping this one up here. I do want to actually, you know what? Instead of trying to tell them exactly what should be in a program, because it is going to be variable. I know you've done a bunch of these. What do you reckon? Do you reckon we can maybe, if somebody wants to reach out to the Newstrength Instagram, we can send them one of the running programs that you've already put together so they can get a bit of insight on like how their program should shape up from a week to week, from a progression bias, like if they're going. Generally, if they're going towards like an actual event, like what starts to happen in those runs, or in their runs, they should be pretty dialed on what their progressions are going to be there. But like from a strength training, like is it start to taper earlier to free up their running, or what's that sort of generally look like?
So in the base phase, that might be the time that we're balancing out the sides and we're getting everything, recruiting all the muscles that may be dormant. So if you did your single leg assessment, perhaps you realised your hammies or your glute medials or your quads or something weren't actually firing when you thought they were good. So that's where you iron out all those and get general base fitness. Then you can dial it back in the build and the peak phases where you need to prioritise the training, the running volume. But yeah, definitely. If anyone wants to reach out, then we can send a template of a strength program that they can do and integrate into their running week.
Oh, just quickly here, where do you fit in curls?
Bicep curls?
Yeah, I can't see it on this template that I've got here in front of me. Where does it fit in? Because you got to look good in your singlet on the run for the photos, right?
Do you know what? Upper body strength is way more important than you think in running. I think the ability to hold that posture, a lot of people are running with running vests at the moment. If you're into trail running, some of the mandatory gear is actually quite heavy. I found that out the hard way. So curls, maybe not so isolated in being able to hold up, but absolutely aesthetically, the curls can go at the end in your accessories.
End of the accessories, perfect. That is, funnily enough, that's exactly how we write normal programs for everyone else. So let's wrap this up. Pretty much, I guess, like the underlying piece here is like if you aren't getting the results that you want out of your running and you're shying away from strength training, maybe that's the gap there. And I think like Claire's covered a lot of really valuable stuff here today of like how we can piece those together. What are the big picture pieces that we want to look at? And then really like why it's got value that transcends just those actual sessions there and it's going to help you get towards those goals. You got anything else you want to wrap up with? Any little insights or pieces of magic?
Let's wrap up with any strength training is good strength training. Like I know I've dialed in, this is my expertise in strength training for runners. But if you are sitting there feeling more confused than you were at the start of this, go back and re-listen, number one. And number two, if you're doing nothing and you're going to add something, some calf raises into your warm-up, some reverse lunges, some knee drives, then that's going to be better than what you were doing last week if it was nothing.
Perfect. And if you guys are interested in that copy of that program, just shoot us a message at Newstrength HQ on Instagram with the word run, and we'll send you through Claire's Run Strong program, 8-week program that basically is just going to give you all those insights there, like what the training sessions should look like, how it should evolve over time, and how you can use that to best improve your running economy, improve your VO2 max times off the back end of the fact that you're going to be producing more force, and really just take the guessing work out of it there. So we've talked a lot of conceptual stuff here. We want to give you guys something that's completely tactical. So we're happy to give you guys that for free. Just shoot us the message there. And that's it. Thanks, Claire, for jumping on the show.
Thanks for having me. I look forward to the next one.